走れそりよ風のように月原をパドルパドル Hi everyone, it's Yuki. Welcome back to the channel. As part of today's lyrical takeover, as promised, I will talk about yet another lyrical deck. This time we're talking about Saint Nitric Fenelle. So, let's go over the right line. For Saint Nitric Fenelle, first, we have our grade 0 starter, Fenelle. So just like any other starter, you draw a card when going second. Next, we have the grade 1 Fenelle. So her skill is, when this unit rides upon a grade 0, from your deck, search the top 7 cards for up to 2 trick and treat and add them to your hand and shuffle. So basically, this entire deck revolves around trick and treat as per the previous videos, and this is the main way that you set up trick and treat in your hand early on. So let's talk a bit about the mulligan for this deck. You may opt to sometimes mulligan for more trick and treat in your hand, or you may just return all of them so that you don't risk breaking this skill. So the existence of this skill and the next one affect how many trick and treat that we play in our deck. Moving on, the grade 2 Fenelle. So basically, she has the same skill, but it's when this unit is riding upon a grade 1. So yes, more ways to prepare your orders. Last but not least, we have the Vanguard, Saint Nitric Fenelle. So she has the dress up ability, which means she has the exact same name, as the previous Fenelle, Triple Trick Fenelle. Her Vanguard skill is also the same. It allows you to play up to 3 trick or treat or regalis piece. It allows you to play 3 orders per turn, but you can only play a trick and treat or a regalis piece during your turn. So this doesn't affect how you play blitz orders or any of the sort, if your deck happens to have those. So her auto skill actually reads a bit differently from the original Fenelle. So comparing them side by side, both are on attack, but for the original Fenelle, the condition is that you must play 3 set orders or more during the turn, whereas for the new Fenelle is just on attack. And then they both gain 2k power per trick and treat in the drop. And then the crit gain is for this unit and another chosen rearguard. However, in addition to the reduction of the condition, basically you don't need to play 3 or more orders for the power gain, but you still need 3 or more orders for the crit. And if you persona roll this turn, you actually can stand a rear with new Fenelle. So overall, this new Fenelle is just an outright upgrade to the old Fenelle. So for clarity's sake, I'm placing the old Fenelle next to here just so that you can have a quick look at it. Yeah. So the question some people might be asking is, why play just 4 Fenelle in the deck total? Why not just add the base Fenelle in the right deck so that you have more Persona right copies? Well, I'm glad you asked. So the main aim of this deck is to have big numbers early on and also have high crit Vanguard and rearguard such that it makes the opponent have difficulty guarding. So if we have more grade 3 shieldless cards, right, that you can't actually use as strong rears, right, it will actually slow down the game plan and it will not contribute much to your consistency. So we have opted to play just the 4 in the total 8, 3 in the main deck, 1 in the right deck. You might also have seen some of the recent topping results from the Nagoya 2025 Lyrical Cup. So we are taking a page out of the, was it 3rd place, 4th place? Fenelle. In the 3rd place, yes. In terms of the decision to use only 3 in the main deck and 1 in the right deck. Yeah, that concludes our right deck section. Let's move on to the grade 3s. So, for our grade 3s, we have 3 Persona copies and 3 Snow and Sorrow. So, Snow and Sorrow, what does this card do? Snow and Sorrow is basically regarded the same as Trick and Treat during this fight. So yes, you can indeed play a maximum of 16 plus 4. You can play a maximum of 20 cards that technically count as Trick and Treat. Although you would not, because now we have a lot more stronger rears. Yeah. So what is the point of Snow and Sorrow? Snow and Sorrow can be played from the drop once per turn if you have a Fenelle Vanguard and you have not played a Snow and Sorrow this turn. So you choose a card from your drop that does not have Sentinel and is a normal unit to your rear guard and call it. And then after that, you put this card at the bottom of your deck. So basically, this is alternative to your Trick and Treat orders, and normally you'll actually be using it to replace the first skill of Trick and Treat, which can be a bit inconsistent at times. The main benefit of this is that it's an extra call, so it helps you build boards, and it can be a good discard target early on, as it allows you to just build a board without actually drawing through your entire deck so soon. So if you ever have the misfortune of ending up in a drag match, you can always remember to return this to deck and just tide yourself over a bit longer. Okay, so that concludes our grade 3. Oh wait, let me talk a bit about the ratios. Why did we choose to use 3 Snow and Sorrow instead of 4? So when you think about ratios, right, you'll be thinking, oh, 4 is always for consistency. Isn't this a very good card that you want to always see? Well, not always. Since it's a grade 3, right, and your early turns matter a lot, right, having the card in your hand and having it do nothing is not very good. If you have more than one, right, you only can discard one for the right deck. So too many bricks you, and at the same time, too few also makes it very inconsistent. So 3 is the number that we have settled at, because the rest of the deck also draws a lot of cards or searches. So it's enough to see it, not enough to brick you. Let's finally move on to the grade 2s. For our grade 2s, we have 4 Streja, 3 Franset, and 3 Replay. Okay. One moment, I'll adjust the cards a bit. So, as we have talked about in the previous deck profile, Replay is Streja is a staple of the deck. Basically, her skill is when this deck is placed on rear guard, other than via card's ability, if you play a normal order this turn, look at the top 5 and choose one card with a grade less than or equal to your Vanguard from among them and review it. Call to rear if it's a real unique card and put into hand if it's a normal order, then shuffle your deck. So basically, she's a consistency engine and also a card advantage farmer. And when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, if it was placed this turn, counterblast 1, draw a card, engage 10 until end of turn. It's also a very strong attacker, and it works very well in conjunction with Fenelle's skill to gain a crit, because, well, she'll have very big numbers and a crit, so it makes her very difficult to guard. So that concludes the segment on our generic Streja. Let's talk about the other generic. Since we actually skipped over the DZLBT02 era of this deck, we'll now take the chance to talk about one of the cards that actually evolved into this deck actually evolved into Franset. It's also popularized by this organization known as the Fenelle Core. What is the core? I don't know. Anyways, when this unit is increased power is increased by the attack of... Wait, no, this is the Crisp Rain skill. We are looking at the second skill instead. When this unit attacks, choose any number of your units. If you choose 3 or more units, and all of the chosen units have different card names, this unit gains 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So it's a magic number attacker which works even on your grade 2 turn. If you choose 4 or more units and all of the chosen units have different card names, at the end of the battle, choose up to one of your other rearguards and return it to hand. So this is the part of the card that we are running it for. Not only is it a very powerful magic number attacker, it also can help you recycle your pieces. For example, let's say if you revive a PG from your Trick and Treat or your Snow and Sorrow, you can actually bounce it back to hand and have more defensive wiggle room. You can also choose to bounce your other cards that filter cards from your deck. For example, Replay, which we'll be talking about later, is the only energy user in the deck. So if you bounce her, you can consistently stay on energy curve if your hand or whatever doesn't have a replay. So that is one area of consideration. So let's actually talk about the new card Replay. So when this card is placed on your rearguard circle, EB3, and then look at the top 7 cards of your deck and add up to 1 Trick and Treat to your hand. Add up to 1 Trick and Treat in your hand and add it to your hand and shuffle the deck. And her more offensive skill is once per turn, when this unit attacks, if your Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater Fenelle, if you played an order this turn, it gains 5. If you played 3 orders this turn, it gains an additional 5. So it's pretty much the same numbers as Streja, but costless. And at the end of this turn, you may retire this unit and draw 1. So she basically net zeros herself and sends herself to the drop to allow you to play her skill again, or in fact choose another rearguard to play on the same rearguard circle that she was on. So the beauty of this card is that she prevents damage denial under certain situations, and also, well, it just plays around retire or removal. Yeah. Okay, that concludes our grade 2s. Let's move on to our grade 1s. For our grade 1s, we'll be playing 8 copies of Trick and Treat, 4 copies of Eldio, 4 Perfect Cards, and 2 Crispina. So Crispina is actually a returning rear from the previous deck profile. Well, the reason why we've actually opted to still include her is because she actually pulls orders from the drop. So what you can do is essentially recycle your Trick and Treats from the drop if you really find yourself in need of a set order but you run out in deck, or for whatever reason just don't have it. So basically, counterblast 1, search your deck for Trick and Treat guaranteed or your drop. Yeah. And continuous skill, let me read the card. Continuous skill, during your turn, if your drop has 3 or more Trick and Treat, this unit gains 5,000 power. So another good magic number attacker, and also good for early rush because her skill is not tied to any grades, it's just tied to the number of Trick and Treat in drop. And yes, for the purpose of this skill, Snow and Sorrow does count. So yeah, remember that. Moving on, we'll talk about our Trick and Treat orders. They've been in the deck since the very beginning. They've actually went all the way down from 16, I remember, from the last deck profile, all the way down to 8 now. You might be wondering, with 8 Trick and Treat, wouldn't you be very likely to miss your Trick and Treat during your Fenelle searches? To that I say it doesn't matter. The deck has a lot more stronger rearguards that actually contribute towards the game plan and find the pieces, so even if you miss those searches, it's still fine. In the case of let's take another deck as a case study. For Ava, you have 2 set order searches, and then you can just straight up just blank your monsters on them, and the deck sometimes only runs up to 8 monsters in total, and it still is a good deck. So as long as the rest of your deck is okay, right, it's okay to miss some searches. You just don't want so many of these targets, right, if they cannot contribute to, if they can be recycled or cannot contribute to the ceiling of the deck. Okay, so let's talk about the skills of Trick and Treat. So for Trick and Treat, for Trick and Treat, right, if you played it the first time, your opponent either gets to choose one of their rear guards and bot deck it, or you can get to draw one. So this is probably the skill that you want to replace with the Snow and Sorrow, because of how I don't want to say mediocre, but it kind of is, because it's just conditional draw. Although sometimes, yes, I think you can force out a removal, but that's not likely to happen. The second skill makes you draw 1 and counter charge 1, which is good for making sure your Vanguard stays online, because it uses a counter blast, and Shreya also uses a counter blast. So yeah, you do need to keep this in mind. You only get to counter charge once per turn. And the third effect, choose one of your rear guards in drop that is grade 3 or lower and call it to rear guard circle. So unlike Snow and Sorrow, you actually can call your perfect guards from this and actually send them back to hand with front set. So Bushiroad has actually learned from the direction this deck went, and they've decided to let us not recycle PGs from Snow and Sorrow. So yeah, keep that in mind. If you want to recycle a PG, you have to do it through this third skill. Let's talk a bit more about the new card in this deck, Eldio. So Eldio is a card which only gains effects if your Vanguard does not have a clan icon. So its first effect is, when this unit boosts during this turn, if you play a order card, it gains 5. And this unit, when it boosts, at the end of the battle it boosts. If your Vanguard has a dress up ability and you play an order this turn, put this unit into soul and draw a card. So basically, the full effect of the card when it comes online on turn 3, it's a somewhat weaker version of a Shenri, some people might say. Yes, oh my god, I love Shenri. So yeah, it's good for early game aggression, good for card advantage, and allows you to rush. This card is almost always online turn 3 onwards because you play an order. You literally have to play an order. You play 11 orders in this deck, and you play 3 of them per turn. If you are not playing an order, something has gone terribly wrong. I'm sorry. And yes, we have actually done a Gravidia video for those of you who like a bajillion of the same card. The link is in the description. Wow. Hey, didn't that Brandgate deck Ravener Rock also have like 16 of it? I don't remember. I only play 1 deck in Brandgate. Wait, no, 2. Okay, anyways. Alright, perfect guards. Yeah, perfect guards are perfect guards. I've talked about them so much from the looping. Last but not least, triggers. Yeah, we play Valnot because let's just resend the rear with 100 million, shall we? And a crit. Yes, very strong. We play 4 heals because this is Cardfight Vanguard. We do guard. And we play fronts because, yes, resending rear. And 8 crits because the deck filters a lot. Just check a crit, just win. So, to conclude, this deck is a very strong aggro deck and is very easy for people to pick up. You actually can just, all you need to do is just be able to read the cards, and then yeah, a lot of the cards are very self-explanatory. Just wanna get as many orders as you can out of the deck, filter for your pieces that have magic numbers. If you need to survive a bit longer, you can loop out the perfect guard from your drop to guard. Heck, if you even have your OT end up in the drop, right, you could also potentially just recycle that. This deck is just winning WGPs because it actually can sack. It has strong rears, it can sack. When this deck pops off, there's nothing you can do about it. Yep, this deck is considerably much easier to pick up than, say, Alestio. Zorga is like this, but a bajillion times harder. You actually need a brain for Zorga. Some say that Zorga is a potential man. Alright, let's wrap it up, and I'll be on my way to enjoy a very merry Shenri Christmas. Bye bye!